Hi guys, Mr. 3D here, and in today's video I'd like to give you my review on Wargames, the new DLC map that was just released. And now that I had a good week to play around the map and kind of get my overall feel of the map, I want to give you my thoughts and feedback on it, whether it's a good map, whether it's a terrible map, or whether it's a map that needs a bit more improvements. Now Wargames was a map that was first released in Titanfall 1. Now I'm not specifically sure on what DLC it was. I can't remember if it was either IMC Rising or whether it was Expedition map pack, but either one of them, it had this map specifically, and this map was highly taken in by the community, specifically for the visual beauty of the map, the design, the flow of how the map played, and the new intro it introduced. Now let me start with the intro. Now the intro for Wargames is completely different compared to all the other maps in the game. All the other maps, you tend to start off in a Blackbird. You get a quick intro from your faction leader, then you drop into battle, and that's when the match starts. For Wargames, it's completely different. Wargames, you're in a simulation pod, like the one that first started off in Titanfall 2, and in that simulation pod, you will be just basically sitting there, looking at your faction leader. That could be either looking at a Titan, or could potentially be looking at some controls, and then the simulation pod starts to close. You press a few buttons and the simulation starts, and that's when you get automatically zapped into the map. And it's quite nice and unique to look into, as it's completely different compared to what other intros we get in the map. All the other intros are boring, good, but boring to me. They're all the same, but they all just have different voice lines to them. Now it would be nice if they added more intros similar to how Wargames does it. Maybe something completely different. Maybe one that shows us coming in through a drop pod, or maybe one that shows us sneaking in through underground vents. Anything really that's completely different. But this one here is probably one of the best intros for me. Although the only downside I would say for this simulation intro is the fact that I say majority, except for Marvin, majority of factions all have kind of like the same loadout. So, for example, you could go with Sarah Briggs's faction, and she could be looking at her Titan in a kind of confused or odd state. Then if you switch to the 6-4 and you do that again, it will be the same model. Well, I say completely different model. It will be the 6-4 model, but it will be the same animation. Nothing different, nothing showing something unique or such, nothing like a high five or a wave this time. It will just be the same animation like before. And it goes the same for the IMC faction as well. The only one that is completely different is Marvin, who kind of looks at the simulation pod and kind of salutes you before you go into your simulation. And it's kind of a shame really, because I would love to see a bit more animation differences within these simulation pods. Whether they're added in the near future, I'm not sure, but I would love to see them if possible. Now, in terms of how the map plays, the map is more of a close quarters map as currently presented on the screen. You have kind of like 3 areas where the majority of fights will be happening. Now you have point A. Point A is where usually, depending on what side you start, is where either the friendly or the enemy side players spawn. This is the area that will have a death pit, and it's quite easy to fall in if you don't time your wall on your movement speed properly. You have point B. This is the middle section where it's kind of tight. It's tight, but not tight enough so that Titans can't squeeze through. It's kind of a death trap if you do decide to drop a Titan in there, you can get easily blocked in and sandwiched. And then you have point C, that is a spawn area for either the enemy or friendly team that kind of spawns onto a rooftop, and then that's where you kind of clash into the middle section. So the way it tends to go is that majority of players either split off to the left side or the right side. Majority of fights tend to split off into the right side, and around the right side, players tend to either camp up in a small building, or they tend to push out and wait for the enemy team that will tend to come on to the other side and meet in the middle, and that's when the clash starts to happen. Now, majority of players will always be staying above ground as much as possible, because the way the map is designed, it allows you to maneuver around the map with ease and without falling around. You have kind of platforms and walls set up in ways so that you can time your jumping from one place to another and basically stay above ground throughout the whole map if you want to. Now you can always stay on the ground, but I consider it a risk for players like you, as it's basically a death trap, and the only time I recommend you stay on the ground is if you are trying to get into one of the buildings, or if you're trying to cap a point. And usually this is how it tends to play. Majority of the times, it'll always be in those areas. Sometimes it might be in the outer areas, the areas that have barely any cover. But the only time you actually see that happen is when Titans tend to drop. And 9 out of 10, that's kind of risky for anyone that decides to go there, as without the cover, majority of Titans tend to get ripped up straight away. And another thing I haven't really mentioned to you guys is the animation when you die. Now usually when you die in an animation, it's kind of your body hunches over and it falls on the ground, and it stays there until it despawns. In war games, on the other hand, the same thing, however you kind of evaporate, or should I say you kind of like digitize yourself from that point. And that's something also quite unique, because you see different types of death animations in the game. Some of them are really good, some of them are quite simple. But for something like this, it's kind of really sticking to how the map is. Like, it's basically acknowledging that because you're in a simulation, all deaths are going to be considered a simulation. So you need to die in a way that it's not overly boring, but it kind of fits to how the world is built around you. So to build it as a kind of digital death, it's quite fitting for the map. And like I said, although it would be great to see this in other maps, I only recommend this for maps that are based around simulations. And whether Titanfall 2 will base even more maps in the near future with more digital maps, I don't know. However, I would love to see more of these in the near future. Now, one thing that really has caught my eye for the map is the visual beauty of it. It's kind of a utopian type map, or kind of visual type map. You have a kind of, on one side you have one map that's kind of like a futuristic or modernized world where everything's completely white, it's all clean, everything's nice and shiny. It's something that you see kind of more people that have the money. And then on the other hand, you have a side that is more kind of like a shanty town, more people that are lower or below poverty. And you have these two sides and they clash into the middle, and you can see the clashing on the floors and on certain parts of the walls and maps. You can see parts of the more cleaner side trying to slowly digitize itself onto the other side of the more, let's say, dirty side. And this is something that you don't see a lot of in certain maps. Like, you don't see a lot of like maps that kind of tell you a story, what's happening. Like, for example, I would love to see a map where it's complete destruction, and maybe you have a bit of firefight happening in the background. Not like attrition firefights, but an actual full-blown firefight. Like, maybe you could be walking through a forest that has a bit of greenery, and then when you make your way halfway, you start seeing burnt out forests with destroyed titans and such. Now, there are a few maps that kind of pull it off. For example, you have Complex that kind of does it, and you also have Boomtown that kind of tells you a story of where militia pirates have been captured, have been put through kind of like a torturous event, and this is kind of the scenario. But I would kind of love to see a bit more, action on the maps. Something that basically tells you a bit more story and what's generally happening more. Those are types of good maps that I really love. But overall, I have to say that Wargames is one of the top maps that I enjoy. It basically is, I consider it the best map since Glitch. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is that Glitch is also a simulation, and why they haven't added a Glitch, or so to say a Wargames-ish simulation into Glitch is also quite debatable. Maybe they will add in the future if enough people talk about this, or maybe enough people will just be quiet about it and not really bother about it. But I would love to see kind of an intro introduced for Glitch, where it's also a simulation, because like I said, it's a simulation, so it should have a simulation intro as well, just to kind of fit with the theme. But anyways, like I said, Wargames is honestly a really amazing map. If you like close quarters and you like kind of like playing within a game, and you enjoy wall running and staying above ground at all times and being able to, I say, top other players quite easily, Wargames is just for you. However, if you're the type of person that don't like close quarters fights, and you don't know how to fight properly, and you don't know how to wall run, I suggest you stay away from Wargames. Because Wargames is one of those maps where if you don't know how to use your movement, and you don't know how to actually get from point A to point B without staying on the ground, it's going to be one of those maps that you're going to struggle with. because some players I see tend to stick on the ground a bit too much, and that basically makes you a target for players. If, for example, I'm on a wall and I'm wall running and I stay above ground all the time and I see you on the ground, all I have to do is either drop a grenade or drop a satchel charge and you're basically dead. So if you're someone that wants to basically improve upon this, play war games and play it to the point of where you understand the map routes, where the main action's happening, and how to get out of certain actions. If you know all this, the war games will be one of the maps that is considered the best for you. And you'll probably love it and understand why I consider it one of the best. But anyways, that's the end of me. Thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy the video, leave a like, a comment and subscribe for more. If you didn't like the video, then by all means leave a dislike. I understand and I know what to improve on in the nearby future. So once again guys, thank you all for watching and I hope to see you all again soon.